I keep going over and over in my head the best way to present this information. Lots of graphics, lots of sounds, but there's also the Joe Rogan way where it's just give you the information, give you the information, give you the information. And I like that because it's a lot less work on my part. But I like flashy. I'm from LA near Hollywood. I've proven the existence of God twice. I had a lot of friends who weren't Christian because they'd never seen a miracle. Oh, if I saw something, I'd believe. It's true and not true. A lot of people who are kind of open-minded about it are just like, okay, cool, there's Jesus. But a lot of people surprisingly just roll over with it. Okay, there's Jesus, whatever, I'm moving on. It's like, no, if Jesus is real and God is real, this is important. And there's the classic version, you want Jesus in your life, you get to go to heaven, you get to have him kind of on call to help you. He'll provide wealth and help you move forward and help you grow and help you find a spouse and help your dreams come true and look after you, look after your nation. And then there's my approach, which is Now, I really got involved with Jesus and Christianity because I love my mom and I love my dad. They're two people that I admire and respect because whenever something went wrong in life, they would hyper-focus and work towards it or work through it. I like something Jordan Peterson said, which was, you always look at the eyes of the dragon, you never take his eyes off of him. And there's a passage my mom has on her fireplace at home, and it says, when life's so much you can't bear to stand, then kneel. And I thought that was really cool. I became Christian because, well, I was already like kind of on board, but once I started being taught, sorry, I ate a bunch of beef jerky. Once I learned that miracles were kind of common, you just had to go outside of just Sunday school or, Sunday church. If you go with missionaries, you'll see a lot of miracles. If you go to Bible studies where you pray around people a lot, you'll see a lot of miracles. And after my mom read me, I was a lot of books on missionaries, I was like, oh, that's where miracles happen. Cool, because there's a lot of miracles. And then I did a bunch of work with my church, and so I saw miracles starting from a young age. And, missionaries will come and talk, and they'll tell you the miracles. And these aren't fools. It's easy to spot a fool, especially in church. They're all self-wrapped. And the people who lead the church, at least the ones I was fortunate enough to attend, were very wise and smart and good. They were like great people that really had your back in life and always treated you like an adult, even when you were a little child, which was a big deal to me because I kind of became an adult when I was 5. I was homeschooled, and when you're homeschooled, you're kind of just tossed into a lot of adult situations. Anyways, I digress. I became Christian. The desire to really get into Christianity came upon me because I wanted to be an X-Men and a Jedi. And if I couldn't be an X-Men or a Jedi, Christianity would be the very next thing. Christianity allowed me to be a fantasy character. I've had friends who've been drug addict alcoholics most of their life, and working with me, they got clean in a matter of months. I've helped people turn their finances around in a matter of weeks. People that have just been debt and depressed and everything. A couple weeks later, financial problems are gone. The trick is tithing, by the way. So you don't have to go and look for future episodes. So, the first time I proved the existence of God was when I really started to feel like my calling was doing God stuff. I had a good job at the time. I was working for Blizzard Entertainment, and No, this was before Blizzard. I was working at Chili's. Yeah. And I was angry because like I had spoken in tongues by then, but I hadn't really seen a miracle, and I hadn't done a miracle. And so I started yelling at God. I got mad. I lost it. I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just as good as your apostles in your eyes, right? Because Jesus loves all of us infinitely. I'm like, what do they got that I don't got? It's not fair. I want to do miracles. Let me do miracles. Like, let me do something. And I kind of hear like, okay, what do you want? And I listed out a bunch of miracles, and one of them was superhuman strength. And so a couple weeks later, I'm walking with my friend, and it's this really windy night, and in my mind's eye, I see a tree branch, a huge tree branch, probably, how big was the thing? If I'm 6 feet, 12 feet long. In my mind's eye, I see a tree branch fall and swing towards my friend. And we're walking down the street, me and my buddy. And I go, that's really weird. I'm being crazy. Like, I need to stop letting my imagination run off with me. And then I hear a tree branch break. And I go, oh, this is happening. This is really happening. And so, like, I'm not really worried. When it comes to God stuff, I get kind of cocky, which isn't the best, but I don't get vain. Like, I offend a lot of people because they want me to be more humble, but I tend to be humble with God and not really worry about being humble with people, just because I conserve my emotional energy very well. So I hear this tree branch fall from like above us, and my friend's next to me, and it's so windy that he's like leaning back into the wind, and it's just like keeping him up. I'm like, oh, my friend's gonna die, because I just feel like the tree branch is gonna go for his neck. And I turn and I look at him, and I pick him up. Like, he weighs less than a paper bag. And I think I like pick him up, and I like bring him down. And then we duck, and the branch goes over us. But I don't know that. We keep walking to the end of the cul-de-sac where he lived, and then we go inside. And he's like, wow, did you see that? And I go, what? He goes, so the tree branch, from his point of view, the tree branch falls, and it starts spinning around because of the wind, and there's a big old spike that's running towards his neck. And then I pick him up, and I put him down, and we duck under it. And I didn't see the thing. I was just like, I should move Doug. I should move my friend Doug. I guess, you guys know his name. I should move my friend because I don't want him to die. And so it was just a really crazy night, and we drove up to see my other friend, and when I was recounting the story, I go, yeah, and then I picked my friend up, I picked up my buddy, and I realized I couldn't pick him up, and I was like, what is happening? And I was like, oh my God, I had that superhuman strength moment, which was more akin to him being weightless, but it was still a moment. And so I thought that was it. I did a thing, I had witness, most of my friends believed me, and nothing. My friends lived their same lives, and it didn't really change much at all. And I started to get angry with that. I realized a lot of the reason why my friends would live righteous lives is because they loved me, and I would kind of encourage us to do righteous things. But once I moved to Texas, it's not like my friends became bad people, but they became very laissez-faire, which means kind of live and let live. Like, it's kind of worldly philosophy, like as long as you're not hurting other people, you can kind of do whatever you want. But Christianity has rules, like if you're married, you can't watch porn, because that's adultery. You're not allowed to look at other chicks with lust if you're a guy, and you have to look at your wife. Your wife is there to be brought together with. It's not an all-you-can-eat buffet. So the second time, I've been obsessed with the gift of healing, because I feel like if I get the gift of healing, you can't deny that. And plus, it'd be really cool. I was like, well, now that I've proven that God exists, it'd be kind of cool to be a superhero. And so I kind of went about my life and tried to grow up a lot, mature a lot. That's one of the reasons I moved to Texas, is I needed to I felt like I was going to play D&D and just work for Blizzard Entertainment until I died. It would have been a great, happy, wonderful life, but I wanted to take chances and try fabulous things and, take on hard projects that would take a monumentous effect and focus to, efforts and focus to achieve. So many years ago, I was taking a shower and I was like, God, I really want these gifts. And he goes, well, if you give me a week, I'll teach you how to give them to everybody. And I was like, well, that's fair. And I came across this verse, and it said, 1 Timothy 4:14. Use the gift you were given when the prophet spoke and the group of church leaders blessed you by placing their hands on you. I was like, well, that's interesting. Because I think that was Paul who wrote that letter. And so he's just saying, go out and do your thing. You're a leader now. But what the video game player, board game player in me saw was, if I find a church elder, so like a pastor, and he's got gifts or authority, he can give them to me. So I prayed and eventually found a pastor on TikTok called Joshua Shaw, S-H-A-W. And I went to him and I brought my friend, and he has a lot of videos on TikTok where he's healing. And so I went and got healed. Yeah, people always say there's no videos of people healing. There's a lot of videos, you just don't look for them. If you go to look for things and you pray for God to point it at you or put some in place so that way you can come across it, he will do it. The reason we don't come across it is you don't ask. Heaven is a different realm from earth. So heaven, which is everywhere, and then, our planet. And so if you want things to happen that are heavenly on your planet, you have to ask for heaven to put it there. If I don't ask to make a new friend that likes dancing in video games, I'm not going to meet a new friend who likes dancing in video games. I might accidentally or incidentally, but if I start praying for one, I can expect one to show up in a couple weeks. By the way, that is completely true. You ever want to meet a girlfriend or boyfriend or new friend or help a friend, change something, pray. Just pray. And heaven will respond. Literally in the Bible it says to harass God to death, grab him by the scruff of the neck and then just da 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 da, and he will do it. And it actually says he'll do it. It doesn't say he won't. People say oh, God's not going to always give you what you want. No, God will always give you what you want. The problem is sometimes you'll ask for things you don't want that aren't as good as the things God wants for you. I like soda so much more than I should. I've quit it 10 times. It's day after Valentine's Day though, so I've decided, last day. I hope and don't hope. Okay. So he prayed for me, and my hernia went away, and another issue I had went away, and my back pain went away, and my knee pain went away, and my feet pain went away. And I didn't realize it until I was at work a couple months ago, and I was like, I still have all this body pain. But the thing I wanted was the gifts. And I asked him, hey, will you pray that I get the gifts? Because some pastors are like, oh, I need to know you first, or come to congregation first. And I hate it when they do that. Yeah, I get it, but I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm trying to do cool stuff in the kingdom of heaven. So give me heaven gifts. Now you should be careful, because once you get heavenly gifts, God's gonna be way more focused on you. So like, a lot of people like to watch porn, and largely their life isn't as affected. Well, it's affected, but they just don't realize how much. But when you like start working for heaven and start using gifts, and especially start teaching, like, God focuses, and you are not allowed to like he will lay down the law, and it is not fun. Read 1st and 2nd Samuel and 1st and 2nd Kings, and you'll see what happens when leaders obey and disobey. Like, oh my God, the kingdom was amazing and everything was wonderful. And next king's like, oh, that's everything wonderful, and who really cares about God? And everything is really, really horrible. And next king's like, oh my God, it's really horrible, so we should turn back towards God. And everything is really, really good. And then people turn away from God, and it's really, really bad. And it literally does this for like, it's like 11 generations or something. It was ridiculous. That was something else that clued me in. Like, oh, if I want to live an awesome life, I better obey his directives. And if you're worried about what to obey, because a lot of people think it means like old school Catholic, like you must obey everything. Only obey what you believe in. But if God says like, hey, this is important, you gotta buy into it then. Like, stealing is important and you know better. You'll be like, yeah, okay. And from then you have to like stop stealing, because God. So, nothing happened for the first 5 weeks because I tried to heal people. And then about 5 weeks in, I had a friend and she wanted a back massage, and so I was giving her a back massage. And whenever I touched, I'm talking light as a feather, it would really hurt, and she'd start crying. And I was like, what is wrong with you in your back? And she goes, oh, I was in band. And she's like, a little thing. And, you know, I was holding big old brass instruments, and so my back's all messed up. And I was like, huh, well, can I try? Like, I'm very scientific about this. You know, can I try using you as a control variable? Not a control variable, well, kind of like a control variable. Basically, we have something we can test now. If she doesn't hurt, we know it worked. So I put my hands about this far from her back, and I started to pray. You know, God please heal, make her back go better. Amen. And I'm like, you feel any better? She's like, no. I'm like, oh, well, great. Oh, well. I tried. I flew to Oregon from Texas to meet with a guy, and it was worth the adventure. I freaking, just like Bilbo, like I went out on my adventure and I came back. Like I went from Texas to Oregon. Actually, it was Texas to Salt Lake City to Oregon to Salt Lake City to Texas in 24 hours. Like, oh my God, it was a lot of flying. But I did it. So my friend says, nothing happened, but your hands felt really hot. And I was like, well, that's interesting, because my hands were not close enough for her to feel body heat, let alone to say that. So, I poked her back, and I was like, do you hurt? And she was like, no. And then I poked it really hard, and I was like, what about now? Because like just barely touching it just made her cry. A little bit of pressure made her like go, ow, ow, that really hurts. And I was poking her harder than that, and all of a sudden she's not saying anything. And her back was keeping her up at night. She couldn't sleep. And I was like, go lay down on my bed. And she comes back, she's like, I feel fine. Cool. She's not a Jesus person yet, but she's like on the fence now, because like you can't deny what happened. But she's just very logical and doesn't want to buy into the baloney of Christianity. Shouldn't see YouTube comments. Sorry, my brother texted me. So since then, I've healed a lot of people. What's really frustrating though is it didn't start strong. So like, the biggest thing I've done so far is heal someone who was like had really bad eyesight, so now he can read across the room. But when I tried it on somebody at work who is legally blind, nothing healed. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times, because I feel that God really wants people to know that this is happening because of him. So I'm trying to grow it. A pastor once said, do it 240 times and then tell me it doesn't work. And so I've done it 60 times about, and that's failures and successes. So sometimes I know why. Like I was praying for a coworker. She had foot issues. There was something with the muscles, and she was going to go to the doctor's the next day. And so I prayed for her foot. Nothing. And so I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, and I'm thinking, I'm thinking, I'm thinking. And I forget about her, and then I see her throughout my shift. And I had a thought. I was like, hey, you know what? Do you have any other health issues? Because if God's not doing this, there's always a reason. When God doesn't give me what I want, I assume the reason is it's twice as good over there. And then if I don't get that, then I assume the next one's twice as good and twice as good. And that's what got me through a lot of my life, is no matter how bad it was, I was like, I bet it's going to be twice as good. And so after you do that for like 20 years, and I now have the gift of healing, basically making me a superhero. And not only that, I figured out how to get everyone the gift of healing and all the other gifts, which include things like controlling the weather. Not, you don't really control the weather, but you like tell the weather what to do. Or just all sorts of things. Knowing what's going on spiritually, just knowing things. Like here's a good example. I was talking to a friend, so many sidetracks, at work, and she said, I asked her how her relationship was with her parents. No, I asked her if she went to church as a kid. I don't remember why we were talking about that. And she said, yeah, I liked going to church. I liked it so much, in fact, my parents would use it to ground me when I wasn't behaving. And I went, that's interesting. And this is how it works. My gift of wisdom will help me kind of parse information. And so I like looked at her, and I thought, 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 and I thought. And I looked at her again, and I said, so your parents were cheating on each other. And she just looks at me and goes, how did you get that? And I go, it's just that thing I do. So that's a gift of knowledge. Well, wisdom and discernment. So knowledge you just kind of know. Another big miracle is God was like, what do you want for Christmas? And I was like, I want to see a lot of movies. And then I want to do a Christmas miracle for someone who really needs it, because that would be awesome. So I'm at the movie theater, and there's a couple really old people. They had to be like 80. And one of them has a walker, and she's walking like 1 foot a minute. Like, it's really bad. And her foot is like probably this big. It is purple, and it is ugly. Now, my dad has worked in the medical field his whole life, and my mom used to work for mental institutions when she was in college. So I have a really strong stomach for medicine. And then I've done missionary work. So I have a really strong stomach and system. But oh my God, it was swollen, and it was huge, and it was ugly, and it was purple, and it was nasty, and I almost threw up, and I almost threw up, and I almost threw up. And I was like, God, don't let me throw up, don't let me throw up, don't let me throw up. And what's funny is I actually almost didn't pray for her because I had a headache because I ate a bunch of salt that day and the day before without hydrating. And I was like, I can't pray for her. I have a headache. And then like I felt God reach into my brain, and then I didn't have a headache anymore. And I was like, I better go do it, because God just reached into my brain and healed me, and that would be ungrateful, and I'm not going to be ungrateful when it's time to use superpowers. So I kind of like watched them for a little bit, walked away, because I can't just like walk up to people. I am large, and I am broad, and sometimes I look like a hobo when I scare people, and I didn't want to get thrown out to the movie theater in case the ladies were like, hobo. But I looked kind of cute. I had my Overwatch backpack on, and I had this Stitch Santa hat, like Lilo and Stitch, so I had ears. And so finally, I came out. I wandered around, waited for like an opportunity. I came back out again, and they were her and I think her sister were sitting on a bench, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna talk to the sister. So I go and I kneel down. I say, hi, my name is Josh, and I'm a missionary. And then I wait. They have to process that. And they go, oh, really? I go, yeah. So sometimes when I pray for people, they get healed. Would you like me to pray for your sister? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. So I move over to her sister and I put my hand on her shoulder, another hand on her knee. And I start praying and praying and praying and praying. And I'm really worried that nothing's going to happen because, like, I don't like people getting their hopes up and then nothing happening. So I'm praying and 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 nothing's happening. It's like a minute and a half and I'm like, oh my God, nothing's going to happen. I just got these guys excited for no reason that something might happen and nothing's happening. And I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying for, I think, like her hip bones and something else. And I'm praying and I'm praying and I'm praying. And nothing's happening. And then I feel a torrent, like a tornado, like a Holy Spirit tornado. It like, so you know, normal fires are like fire. This felt like a tornado fire, but instead of like there being heat, it was good, if that makes sense. Like instead of like, this is warm, it was, this is blessed, this is good. And then instead of like drinking in oxygen like fires done, it like just drank in the moment that we were having, that was transpiring here. And then what else is there about fires? They are hot, and they consume, and they need oxygen. Sure. So anyways, I'm looking at her foot and I realize it's smaller and more flesh color. It's like, instead of purple, it's like becoming more flesh color. I can see these like veins inside. They're like purple and gnarly, like a sci-fi movie. And I'm just like, is this actually happening? Like, am I actually seeing this happen? Am I actually seeing this happen? Like, is this actually happening? This is actually happening. This is actually happening. And then her foot was like normal flesh color, normal size. And I was like, this is actually happening. Like, this has actually happened. This actually, whoa. And then I was like, okay. So how do you feel? She's like, well, I can walk again. I was like, cool. Can you find any pain? Any pain anywhere? She's like, nope, that's it. I was like, okay, cool, bye. Like, thank you. I was like, oh my God, that happened. Oh my God, that happened. Oh my God, that happened. So yeah, so there's several times it hasn't happened. But there's several times it has. So I'll talk about that in the next video. But let me look at my notes real quick before I stop this one. Come on, iPad. Go the right direction. Okay. So, there are 9 gifts of the Spirit. And 9 is a number which is 3 times 3, which means God times God. I'll do an episode on numbers, but like 40 will show up a lot. 3 is God. 9 is 8 is Jubilee, I believe. 12, you got discipleships. But you'll be surprised. So like at one point God says, I have 7,000 prophets. Who does he say that to? Is it Abraham? But so we have 7, God's perfect number, times 10 times 10 times 10. And 10 is a number of process. So you have like 40, which is process. And I think 4 is like suffering or something. But you notice like Eve, so Adam had to work now to make earth his kingdom. And then Eve had to suffer to make earth her kingdom. So women are pregnant for 40 weeks. Like they say 9.5 months, but Noah, 40 days and 40 nights. Women, 40 weeks. Moses' crew, right, in the desert, 40 years. Most of the biblical heroes, 40 years. They kind of get isolated and then trained. I think it's 40 years. I should really go back and check that. 40 days of fasting, etc., etc., etc. So there are 9 gifts. Speaking languages you don't know, that's called tongues. Comprehension of languages you don't know, that's called interpretation of tongues. I've done tongues, it's very weird. It's not like I know people can pretend to do it, but we were all worshiping, we all started speaking in tongues, just the Holy Spirit kind of just like pushes you and you start doing it. So, no, I guess I did hear it, because I would hear words my mouth wasn't making. Like I'd hear English, but I wasn't making English words. So it was really, really interesting. Wisdom, I mentioned. So wisdom is you just kind of parse information really well. You kind of like put clues together. You just kind of get things. Knowledge, we get that. So faith is the expectation of reality. Like, I know Jesus will do this, and it's not, doesn't really cost me anything emotionally to see it through. Excuse me. Healing, we get that. Miraculous power is like when Elijah called down the fire. Jesus walked on the water, feeding everyone. Those are kind of like God's doing in the moment, but yeah. If I'm daydreaming a lot and I'm pretending I'm a wizard and I'm like, oh, and it should rain, and there's a part of me that's very spiritual, and if the imagination touches the spiritual part, all of a sudden God's like, okay, so we're gonna make it rain, right? I'm like, no, 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 I don't want it to rain for 2 weeks. I was just playing, God. I was just pretending I was a wizard. I didn't actually make it rain. That's okay. Discernment means you know like what's operating on someone's heart. So like, I was praying for a buddy, and he had a lot of depression from when he was a driver. He's like, yeah, I made a lot of mistakes, and so I'm praying for him, and I'm healing him too as I'm praying. He used to have back issues and high blood pressure, all gone. But I was like, you didn't do anything wrong. You're just being prideful and assuming that you can't be forgiven. And then I was like, I can see all of this demonic activity to keep you down. And so I prayed against the demonic activity, and I blessed him, and I was like, dude, just chill. You're fine. You're fine. You're fine. And then prophecy. And Jesus, I got a throat lozenge or something. Prophecy isn't telling the future, but that's what the prophetic does often do. Prophecy is speaking for God, which I didn't know. I was reading up on it, and I found that interesting. So Moses was God's prophet, and Aaron gets left out a lot of the movies, but Moses wanted to be super awesome. That's why when he murdered the Egyptian dude for whipping were they called Israelites yet? He was whipping one of Moses' people. I don't remember if we call them Hebrew or Jews, the Jewish people, or we call them Israelites yet. But Moses killed him because he wanted to kind of be like Batman and defend everyone. And then he went up and was like, yeah, I'm gonna get praise. And the guy goes, are you gonna kill me now too? And Moses kind of got his heart broken and realized he wasn't doing the will of God. And he just ran away like a little crybaby because his heart was broken. And so God finally shows up because Moses wanted to do godly work. And God says, you're going to go and do my wonders and, go to Egypt and get my people. And Moses goes, I'm not a very good speaker. And he goes, okay, well, we'll send Aaron with you. So Moses is God's prophet, and Aaron is Moses' prophet. So Aaron did a lot of the talking, and Moses had the staff. Staff power. Gandalf. Where the heck was I going with that? Prophecy. The way you get the gifts, go up to any pastor who's an elder of a church, like a legit pastor, have them pray that you receive the gifts of the Spirit because you want them. I'm almost positive this works. I haven't tested it. I'm going to test it in the next couple of weeks. I will let you know how it goes. It's hard to find volunteers. I do know that you can go up to somebody who is a church elder who has the gifts and get them, because that's how I got it. He got it by Joshua Shaw got it by praying to God. Now, a lot of people who have the gifts are misinformed on how to get them. That's because nobody treats the Bible like a video game. I do. And that doesn't mean I'm everybody's hero. But what that does mean is that a lot of people know what they've read about the Bible, but a lot of them haven't put it all together and learned where they're wrong. So like Joshua Shaw one time was saying like, oh, all you have to do to heal people is just pray, pray, pray. No, because and I knew that, and I was waiting to find the answer. And then in a later episode, he's saying like, oh yeah, I was, praying with God, talking to God, and God says, do you want to heal people? So if you don't have the gift, it can happen and often does. If you do have the gift, it happens often. Because you have the gift. God will always show up. God shows up all the freaking time. And so doing miracles is very common if you just step out. Everyone wants... humans are the kings and queens of Earth realm. God is the king of heaven realm and Earth realm. So when God shows up, lots of things happen, and God will show up a lot. But there are times when he gives special anointings to people of Earth realm. And then we can go and do godly things on Earth realm. So, if you want the gifts of healing and prophecy, find somebody like Joshua Shaw in Oregon, or, because I know that does work, and I almost am like 99.9% sure that the pastor doesn't even have to have the gifts. He just has to ask for the gifts because he operates with the kingdom of heaven. But I haven't tested it, but I'm going to test it. I'm going to find out for y'all. I will be blessing other people in the future, just to let you know where I'm going. I'm starting a church kind of denomination. I know a lot of people don't like denominations, but for me, it just kind of says what a church's focus is. So most churches, there's like evangelical, right? They're all about going out and spreading the word of God. And then there's Pentecostal, they're about doing the things of God. And then charismatic, which is about like the power of the word of God. And then there's Baptist, which is like a strong community. And there's non-denominational, where like we just teach God. I'm starting a denomination called the Paladin Corps, like Army Corps, but Paladin Corps. Corps is spelled C-O-R-P-S. I believe it used to stand for corporation, or it does. Anyways, I'm starting the Paladin Corps. A lot of churches rock, but I want to start one for people who want to do miracles, see miracles, and affect change. And if you're worried about what kind of change, heaven only ever makes things more awesome. So we'll get into a lot of cool things. In later episodes. But people call themselves Christians, and then they'll be okay like having sex without being married, or having sex with other people, or having threesomes, or they'll call themselves Christians and steal. You don't get to do that. Or watch porn. Don't get to do that. A Christian is somebody who, it means Christ-like. Oh, they're followers of Christ. And God didn't mean like, get behind me, I'm your leader. He just meant walk with me. Pick up your cross, that which you're willing to live and die by, and be resurrected by, find new life by, and come with me. That's it. So, I'm going to set that up. This is just the first stage of it. So if you're interested, you can email me at hyperlightcontact. And I'm going to start flying around the US and then the world, healing people, and I'm going to live stream it so everyone can help me by praying. Because if I get 400 or 4,000 or 40,000 people behind me praying while doing it live, while being at like a hospital, like who knows how much we can do. Prophets last year talked about hospitals emptying, and that might be this. The prophets have also been talking about this movement a lot, which is really trippy to see the work you're doing be prophesied. And I've saved a lot of those episodes, so I'll talk about them. So yeah, I'm going to contact some churches in Austin, and I'm going to see if I can set up shop there so people can find me in Austin on Sundays and maybe during a weekday. And I'll try to find 2 days a week where people can find me. That way, it's just like a place we can meet. And then if your person can't be moved, I'm going to try and start flying around. I have one other man I work with. And so he will be flying around the US too. We'll probably be flying as pairs to begin with and then flying separately. But my name is Joshua and I go by Paladin One because I started the Paladin Corps. I love you guys, and I hope you find this interesting, if nothing else.